Hi, everyone. Welcome to another night in the series of Orphan's Tales Live. This is night 10. We're moving at a pretty good clip here. If it weren't like a 550-page book, we'd be closer to the end. But we're not. We're not even to the middle. We crossed the 100-page mark during the last reading, and we'll get a little further tonight. But yeah, these will be going until we all get to leave our homes again. So I hope we don't get very far into this book at all. But my brother, which brother says hello? I have a lot of brothers. But Miranda makes me think that that's Justin. So, hi, Justin. We'll take a stab in the dark. Anyway, so, thanks for coming again. Let's do our housekeeping. For legal purposes, this is not an audiobook. You have never heard an audiobook of The Orphan's Tales. This is a play, a one-woman show. You can, if you are interested, catch up at the archive on my YouTube channel, Cat Valenti Live. You can subscribe to my Patreon, also at Cat Valenti. Follow me on Twitter, coincidentally, also at the name Cat Valenti. There's a tip jar in my Instagram profile and one on my website at catherinemvalenti.com. There's absolutely no obligation. These readings are free, but times are pretty tight for us. To say the least, and I'm sure that they are for you as well. So if you care to toss a coin to your witch, it is deeply, deeply appreciated. Thank you, Sherry and Laura, for helping out a little bit last night. You are my heroes. Anybody who throws anything in the hat will be thanked personally on the next stream. Thank you so much. As far as, have I seen the Japanese cover of Palimpsest? I have. I was given cover flats a while ago of it. It's totally amazing. And I don't think I've ever had a pink book before, unless you count Space Opera, which is mostly blue, but a little bit of pink. It is Rococo madness, but then as you look close, the Palimpsest cover, but you look closer, it's actually entirely grotesque what has been painted in this flowery, sort of 18th century pink style. Like there's dead animals and rotting fruit, but it looks really fancy and beautiful. It's great. So as far as what we're going to read tonight, if that is the Miranda that is my sister-in-law, this is the last of one of your bottles of wine, so thank you. We are getting into the Lucrata. Now, I have made jokes about my memory as far as these books before. I wrote them 18 years ago. I remember very little. The stuff about the Ixora trees in last night's reading, oh man, I thought that was in the second book. What really is difficult to keep straight is what is in what book and what order everything comes in. I remember a lot of what is in here, but how it connects and where it shows up is all mixed up because I had to write 39 other books afterwards. But we are getting to the Lucrata tonight. I quite like the Lucrata. The Lucrata is not one of my monsters. That is a real monster from a medieval bestiary. They look very amusing if you look them up. The medieval bestiary illustrations are hilarious at best. The Lucrata is no different. I also just like the word. It's fun to say. So I like Beast quite a bit. So technically the trees are in the second book. Awesome. I was reading that. I was like, this comes back. Pretty sure all this comes back and it's important later. But I mean, the nature of the Orphan's Tales is that most things come back and are important later. Like the sort of secret of the entire first half of this book is it's all set up for things that pay off just like miles down the road. So pay attention. And I do take questions afterwards, but things tend to move kind of quickly and people sign off. So think of your questions as I'm reading so that you can type them in as soon as I put the book down and get them answered if you have any. Thank you all so much for coming tonight. It's nice to have this little ritual, this little bit of social contact I know this is all miserable for all of us, and it hits you in different ways on different days, and I don't know, every day is a mess, but hopefully what we're doing is working, and hopefully in another few weeks little bits of our lives can return to normal. It is certainly my deepest hope. All right, let's get going. More goose action. The tale of the prince and the goose continued. I just flashed on the Untitled Goose Game in my head, which is a much funnier version of geese adventures. Anyway, the tale of the prince and the goose continued. Well, my fine boy, let me tell you. That boy tried to drop down from the crags onto Beast at the dueling ground, most unsporting, and got his limbs all tangled in poor Beast's antlers. It took us weeks to remove them, and such unsavory work it was. Perhaps you will show more sense. Now then, the Marsh King said, peering at him over his abalone spectacles. Do you know any formulae or theorems? The prince shook his head. Thank the wide-brimmed hat of heaven for that. Perhaps that style of government has gone out of fashion. Yet I fear you will still insist on disturbing Beast at this uncivilized hour. I must. And why? We've already established through the recitation of a most agreeable secondary discourse that Beast is not a monster. The Marsh King wrinkled his greenish nose in a puzzled way. I know, Leander sighed, but it cannot be avoided, and I have a question to ask of you before I reveal my purpose. For me? The Marsh King brightened considerably, his whiskers rising with pleasure. Almost all the young men come for Beast. I have not had a visitor in ever so long. What is it, my fine, attractive, excellent young man? Eyvind wants to know how much longer he must wait for the sea to turn to gold. The Marsh King furrowed his great brow and peered at the sky. Can't say I know a chap by that name, he admitted sadly. He used to be a bear. You made him a man. Prince was suddenly embarrassed. The story had sounded convincing as a stone plaque when the tavern keeper told it. Yet the elderly monarch still humphed and ho-hummed to himself. At length his face lit up like a festival lantern. Oh, he cried. The astrologer bear, of course. Well, you know, not too much longer, I imagine. Perhaps before you get home to your witch woman, perhaps not. I don't exactly keep an almanac of such things. And why should I? I am quite the master of my own shape. And now that that is answered, what in the world could you want with my dear friend Beast? I need his skin to restore a maiden to life. It was I who killed her, so I owe her the remedy. Oh, said the king distastefully. How vile of you. What a disgusting operation you propose. Absolutely out of the question. Now, a deep voice, like bellows squeezed by mammoth hands, sounded across the marsh. My dear friend, you ought not to speak for me when I am not present. It's quite rude. Across the long swamps came the dark scarlet form of the lucrata, antlers blood bright against the sky. The smell of him filled the saddlebags of the wind, a smell of still pools of blood glittering under the sun, in well buckets and wine casks, china vases, and reed baskets. The hot, coppery smell of its wetness slowly spread. But his hide was strangely beautiful, the color of dark secret rubies and garnets scattered on the snow, and his antlers towered like turrets, armed with strong-armed bowmen, forking like a blazing forest. His great jaw hung slightly open, revealing the shock of white bone. On powerful haunches he moved toward the prince, eyes all pupils, sparking like flint within the endless black. Certainly, my dear monarch, I can take care of my own affairs, he intoned. Of course, Beast, I meant no offense. Dispatch him at your leisure. Oh, none taken, old boy, and I wouldn't dream of trampling all over your jurisdiction after you, Beast yielded. Oh, no, after you, the Marsh King bowed at the waist. I insist. I won't hear of it. The lucrata looked appraisingly at Leander for a long while. My skin, you say? I had not heard it had any medicinal value, but if the witch needs it, I must, as a gentleman and a monster, yield to her. Both the prince and the king started, shocked at the suggestion. "But we must have a battle," insisted the prince. "Don't be ridiculous, boy. I would eviscerate you within a minute. Just take the skin and scurry back." The Marsh King spluttered in consternation. "My dear boy, I must protest. The mess it will make in my swamp. And a skin is not a pocket watch. You cannot simply hand it over." He stamped his mossy foot, which of course made no sound as he remained floating just above the water. The Lucrata shrugged. "I expect I shall grow another within the month." And with that he bent his great crimson head to his chest and tore his hide from his body like a child peels a ripe apple, all in one long, spiraling stroke. "You know," he said thoughtfully, as the pile of skin beside him grew, "when the witch was young, we were quite social. How could I refuse that delightful creature? She was beautiful in her day, I must tell you. The scars and tattoos, the way her face was mangled, was most divine. The deformity of her features was as lovely to me as summer's first fruit, hanging red and perfect on a dew-bright branch." Beast sighed dreamily. "Such, well, what you would call ugliness is so rare. One finds so little of it expressed as it was in her." He looked politely at the Marsh King, who was, if elderly, still a handsome and a stately sort of way. The way her tattoos reflected her scars in a marvelous symmetry of black ink and punctured white skin. Were I but a troubadour, I would have composed such songs to her beauty, and the way her hair flashed like my own skin, burning in the sun. Beast was paring the last of his skin from his hooves, the pile beside him enormous and deep scarlet, like leather in the shop of a master tanner. Beast himself sat quite comfortably, even redder than before, his muscles shining with pinpricks and rivulets of blood oozing out of him, dribbling like paint onto the swamp grass. The wind pulled at his exposed flesh, but he seemed to enjoy its ghostly fingers on his great haunches. "Fear not, my little fawn," he assured the prince. "It is not at all painful. Rather brisk, in fact. I would suggest the two of you try it as a fortifying tonic, save that your anatomy is unequipped, shall we say." The prince looked on, horrified at the hulk of the Lucrata sitting happily before him and bleeding freely from his massive musculature. He began to gather up the skin into his pack. "Will you not stay to hear of how I knew the witch?" cried Beast, hurt, filling his voice like a wine-sack. "After I've done exactly as you asked. Didn't your mother teach you to be kind to monsters who completely fail to gobble you up?" Leander's face colored abruptly, and an awkward silence descended, a woolen shadow settling over the trio. "Perhaps not," conceded Beast, "but sit beside me and listen, and all will be well, you'll see." The sun was still high in the wind-racked clouds, with time enough before the hours became his enemy. In order not to be turned into anything untoward by the Marsh King, the prince sighed his acquiescence. The Lucrata's tale. "She rescued me, the little minx. I was battling, as luck seems frequently to have it. A duke's son of the Eastern Duchies, the sort with an ornate armor of silver and ivory, terrifically impractical, of course, but they always were dandies, the duke's boys. I had already gored him through the left side with my antler, but had unfortunately missed all the vital organs, and the ferocity of his blows came as great as 12 wolves who share a mother. He was desperate, the poor thing. But in his desperation, he managed to slide his blade just under my ribs, nearly to the hilt. The high-born scoundrel ought to have done his research. My heart is not near my ribs, as it is with humans. Would scarcely fit, but deep in my belly, and his thirsty blade had not come close. Nevertheless, I found myself in great extremity, struck with his grotesquerie of a sword, and him ready to hack off my head. But in the moment of triumph, which must have been so sweet in his young mouth, an arrow shot from the trees with the speed of a heron which has sighted a fish, and buried itself in his shoulder, the force of it flinging him from my writhing body. A radiant thing leapt from the oaks, clad in mangy, marvelously lice-ridden furs, her hair a violent briar. Her thighs were strong and smooth enough, I suppose, but her face was beautifully destroyed, hacked to pieces by some master artist and painted over with thick black marks. Her smell would have killed a herd of antelope, as had they happened by, rancid sweat and stringy meat and starvation, metallic and sharp. I inhaled her delicious perfume like the steam from cooling cakes. The fabulous apparition sprang onto the offensive Duke's son, pinning him to the mossy earth. She landed astride him, panting harshly while she sniffed at his armor like an animal. I imagined the stink of her breath longingly. I am sure it would have that peculiar combination of rotted spinach and boiled egg underlaid with maggoty wood that I so often dream of. "What are you doing?" she rasped, baring her teeth. "No animal is killed in my wood. It is my law. All men of this kingdom know it." I was surprised to hear her speak so well. Perhaps I had hoped for too much in imagining yellow teeth and a language of grunts and hisses. Nevertheless, it gave me enormous pleasure to see the prince squirm in fear like an infant pig. "I apologize. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I'm not from this country." He protested to no avail as she ground her body further into his, causing his pretty armor to pierce his skin. He howled in a most satisfactory fashion. "Ignorant," she whispered, pain lacing her voice like a dress. "An animal has a soul. It might even on the inside be something quite other than a monster. Who are you to kill it before you even know what it is?" No one, I'm no one." He began to cry in earnest now, huge tears dribbling out of his feeble face. Strange he felt no fear of me, but beneath this human woman he was weak and blubbering so loudly as to shame even a plain piglet. She rolled her eyes. "Even nobodies shall not be killed here, but swear to me that you will give up questing and devote your life to the princess you no doubt have left at home with nothing to do." I swear." At this concession, the woman stood up, leaving the Duke's son inconsolably weeping, the grass beginning to wet his tunic. "Oh, mightn't you kill him a little?" I suggested with my best and most courteous voice. Her eyes turned toward me, caves the depths of which could not be sounded. "It is my law," she answered tonelessly. "I do not know you. Why are you in my forest?" "What precisely makes it your forest? Have you a deed?" "No, I've simply claimed it. Men have learned better than to question that." I wriggled with excitement at the gravelly abrasion of her voice. "I am not a man, as you see. I am beast, Lucrata furialis by species. I was called out by this whelp here. I thank you for your help. It was most kind." "No more than I would have given any animal in need." She slung her bow, a fine ash one she had obviously hewn herself from some lucky sapling, over her shoulder. "I'm the witch of the glen. All things that breathe within my wood are under my protection. Don't take it as a personal favor. If you both understand me, I'll leave you." "Wait!" I trotted closer to her so as to give her a full view of my color and height. "I must repay your brave deed. I shall perform any task for you, fair lady." Ignoring the wails of the Duke's son, who had not risen, but sat swatting miserably at the arrow on his shoulder, she looked appraisingly at me, raising one shaggy eyebrow. "Would you kill a king for me?" she asked quietly. "Certainly, my lamb." I bowed slightly, extending my forelegs. "But I am not precisely inconspicuous, so as to enter a castle unnoticed, nor equipped with weapons to do much damage other than to, well, eat him, which I surmise would be less than satisfactory for you, as it results in a shocking lack of a body. I think I am perhaps not the monster for that task." I looked meaningfully at the wretched prince, who by now had seen his own blood and appeared to be about to faint. A smile curled across her face like a rapier whipping against the side of an opponent. It was wonderfully hideous. "Well, boy, what do you think? Would you like to kill a king in exchange for my sparing your life?" "Oh, yes, he said feebly, "if it would please you. Only don't shoot any more of your arrows into me. I have a horror of sharp things. I only questioned it all because my father called me a coward and sent me off after the famous Lucrata. He wants the skin, you see, for assassinating." I agreed heartily. It is possible, my sweet peach, to make a great many vile things with and from my skin. I hear it fetches high prices on the black market in all the best sorts of places. But you will do this for me." She would not veer from her course. You will go to the palace and put a knife in the king. Yes, yes! The Duke's son staggered to one knee to make the traditional gesture of fealty to the witch. Only which one? The king, boy. Who else? In the palace. She was impatient, of course. For witches, there is but one king and one palace. The one who wronged them and the house in which he lives. In fairness, kings are often quite as dense, calling themselves sacred vessels, masters of all things above and below, and in fact they command a few patches of lonely dirt, with even lonelier houses sitting upon them. You will know it, I added helpfully, for it is bordered by the 2 rivers, one white and one black. Yes, mistress, I shall go and accomplish your task, only I was not only sent to kill the Lucrata, there's a maiden in a tower. At this the witch spat, rolling again her marvelous eyes. Those revolting creatures are always getting themselves locked up. If only they'd stay that way, she growled. The Duke's son blushed deeply as a girl caught naked. Nevertheless, she's been imprisoned by a terrible wizard of these parts, and I am charged to rescue her. If I complete your quest, who will complete mine? With an exasperated snort, the witch bent, removed the shaft, and dressed his wound without response. Seeing her work well done, she finally spoke, her voice thorny with delicious irritation. I loathe this habit of quest after quest. It is useless and shabby as a second-hand crown. But I would do many things I loathe if it earned the death of the king, and perhaps more for the wizard of whom you speak. I will take on your quest myself and release the brat from her shack. She murmured something to the horse and fetted a bit of apple she had hidden in her pack. Go, she ordered the lad, and kill nothing but the king. Return to the glen when your murder is complete. The Duke's son scampered off. I heard much later that he caused a great scandal by killing some poor inoffensive monarch in quite another part of the world. But I was left with an unpaid debt, a pauper before a jeweled queen. But as for my part, I purred, I am still your own beast, to do with as you like. She considered for a moment. Is your skin really a tool of assassination? Undoubtedly, my little lemon tart. It is quite a unique appendage. I grow new ones each month like a fruit tree. Cut into strips and combined with certain ointments of belladonna and hyssop, it can cause paralysis in men born under the sign of the goat. Soaked in an infusion of yarrow and fennel with a dash of manticore blood, it will cause a woman who is conceived under a new moon to miscarry or the resulting child's heart to stop in its sleep at the age of 7. Yet that same child, wrapped in a blanket of the skin, will revive so long as it forever after keeps the skin against its own. This is a particularly good trick, as the child will drop dead should it lose the skin, even if he or she should live to 107 by its grace. Ground into a powder with a handful of ants from a common hill and a measure of pickled salamander liver, it will cause a man over-fond of public speech to swallow his own tongue at a banquet in his honor. There are many applications, each peculiar to the man or woman it was meant to harm. It is utterly devoid of noble uses, I'm told. But I have not researched the matter properly, so I could not say. It is, of course, in demand for these properties, and not for warmth or shelter. I was suitably proud of my skin, for it made me an exotic animal rather than simply average. The witch furrowed her excellent brow, which was the exact texture of curdled cream. Then my price is twofold. One day I will require your skin. You must give it to me without question or hesitation. Agreed? It is an honor, my crumpet, my plum. I shall await your summons, and in the meantime I shall trumpet your beauty to the corners of the earth, so that all may know what I have learned, that a jewel dwells in the glen, and she is beyond all the rubies that the earth can press into life. The witch laughed, a sound like a saw cutting across rusted iron. 2, you must help me get this girl free. It is a silly task, but sooner done, the sooner we are rid of her. Will you come with me? I suppressed the sudden desire to dance with glee. With profound pleasure, my honeycomb. In fact, we may accomplish this all the sooner if you would. I hardly could contain my eagerness. deign to ride upon my back. Is there always such camaraderie between monsters? She mused. We must look after each other, I answered softly, for we are a small and dwindling band. Didn't you know? I have not always been a monster, she murmured. She climbed onto my back with the ease of a whisper, as though she had ridden me for a decade. For a moment I heard her breath catch strangely, as if in recognition of a lost love or a child long dead. She wound her hands into my mane with great tenderness, and if I am not mistaken, actually put my mane to her face and breathed in my smell. It has been years since I sat astride a horse, she marveled. I protested that I was not a horse at all, but she did not seem to hear. The place most maidens find themselves caught is to the northwest of here, in the center of a nameless forest and a nameless tower. It took less than a day to arrive there, and I reveled unexpectedly in the sensation of a rider, of her small weight like a branch of holly, and her gruff company. It is a pleasant thing to be tame, to recognize a rough-carved voice. I shall not say it will not happen again. The tower itself was solid black stone hewn from one great block of obsidian, so that it mirrored the forest around it in a dark, rippling mockery of its green beauty. The sky overhead was a uniform gray, like the metallic flesh of a cannon, and sullen clouds dragged themselves west. The fragrant pines and birches would not grow near the tower, which stood in the center of what once must have been a meadow, but now was only a circle of leached grass, dead and white. The thing tapered, as towers do, to a sharp point, giving the impression of a great arrowhead rising from the earth. Its architecture was unnatural, beyond even what magic can build, and I could smell the blood of children in the gently waving grass at its base. It was a coldly terrible place, but the witch seemed undisturbed by it. She dismounted and strode to the foot of the tower and called up to its wicked heights. Woman, come out. She looked at the bloodless grass, embarrassed. I've come to rescue you, she finally said, as if admitting she were covered in boils. I was momentarily distracted by the delectable image of her covered in boils, but my reverie was rudely broken by the appearance of a head at the top of the tower. It was crowned in hideous golden curls which fell in long braids down the side of the parapet, and possessed of eyes blue as a drowned eel, set in a face which was smooth and plague-rosy. The maiden's bosom heaved in a most gauche fashion, bound far too tightly into a white dress which showed nothing of any interest to me. This is the awesome illustration of Beast and the witch riding him. It's like the first one in the book that is really breathtaking, I think. The first full-page one. Oh, except for the one in the beginning, which I will show you at the end of the reading. She made quite a spectacle, this maiden, most distasteful. Perhaps she locked herself in the tower so that to spare the world the sight of her ugliness. Certainly beside my ravishing witch, she was a toad, a wart, a pustule. The creature pursed her lips curiously and spoke with a voice sweet as spoiled milk. Certainly. Come up. A black arch appeared noiselessly in the flesh of the tower, a lightless curtain, parting to reveal nothing but further and deeper darknesses. With a knowing glance toward me, the witch entered the fissure, and I trotted in behind her. I know the dark well. It and I have become fast friends. If the old man seeks to frighten me this way, he is a great fool, she whispered. We ascended quickly, the liquid stone of a murky staircase sliding beneath us. I followed her scent in the black, the trail of her body heat lighting my way. For a long while, there was no sound but our breathing, and the pattern of our feet on the rock was like rain in a forest. It was not unpleasant. As suddenly as we had entered the womb-like shadows, we left them behind, stepping into a round room at the top of the tower, which held the maiden in its center like a jewel in an iron ring. Welcome. My name is Magadan. Her voice echoed in the chamber like an arrow glancing off its target. We could say nothing at first, so stunned were we at the girl's appearance. Her head, which we had seen from below, was the picture of pearl-edged royalty, gilded and cool skin, repulsive to me, but beautiful by mortal standards. Yet the rest of her body was terrifying and marvelous. Her hands were covered in thick russet fur, tapering to jaundiced claws, her hips twisted into a deer's delicate haunches. The turquoise wings jutted painfully from her shoulder blades, splitting the skin and drawing blood in great swaths. Her feet sparkled as green as underwater opals, webbed and slime-filmed like a frog, yet her legs beneath the gauzy dress were silver as a fish, smoothly coated in translucent scales. Feather-fine fins sprouted from her heels. Her breasts, which below had seemed milky and unblemished, were actually furred in patterns of a white tiger, dark and feral stripes beginning to show across her delicate collarbone. A wolfish tail thumped unhappily behind her, having torn through the beaded fabric. The ends of her braids appeared to be slowly flapping, the veined surface of dragonfly wings shining through her curls. Worse, all around her were severed heads mounted on the walls, what once were maidens, each in various stages of metamorphosis. One was half covered in serpent hide, her hair hissing violently. Another head had lost her mouth, the beak twisting out of her face in its place. Another's eyes shrunk terribly, and dark hair covered her bat-like features. The menagerie of beast princesses ringed the chamber, watching us with eyes that seemed not entirely dead. You see, the maiden admitted quietly, why I have not been rescued yet. Why nothing guards the door. They come by the dozens, pretty nights all in a row, and run like frightened squirrels when they see what I am. I saw pity coalesce on the witch's face, and she took the maiden into her arms tenderly, as the girl wept great red tears which fell on her dress like some unspeakable wine. Tell me what he's done to you, she said softly, stroking her veined hair. He's trying to change me, Magadan squeaked, her voice cracking like a wounded hawk, as he tried to change them. He took me from my father's house. And that's where we'll end for the evening. Coughs take on strange meaning these days, even when I'm definitely not sick. Oh, I said I would show you I forgot to show you the first full page illustration, which is at the very, very beginning of the book, first page of the book, and the girl in the garden and the swans and everything. Yes, so if anyone has any questions, I will answer them. Thank you for listening to probably the most traditional fantasy thing I've ever written. It has the most sort of elements of the genre, like style. It deals in tropes because it is what it is, but that's so directly focused in the fantasy genre as opposed to cross genre or something like that. Is there a food from the Orphan's Tales I wish I could try? Probably. But again, I know that there's a lot of food in this, but I don't really remember what most of it is. I know that there's definitely magic foods in parts, but I don't remember. I will try to keep that question in mind and say so when we come across one. But certainly anything throat soothing would be good right about now. It is a lot to read every day. Something that's not, I wrote to the zoo to send me a pet, which is my son's favorite book, and obviously the greatest work of human literature. Was it tricky getting to know the girl in the garden as I was writing her? I mean, not really. She's a lost, lonely little girl, which is how I spent the better part of my life. So she was never a difficult character, and there's a lot of me in her. I used to say that sort of after the Orphan's Tales, I had kind of written out all of my trauma, and I had to sort of learn to tell other people's stories because there's so much of my life and my feels. There still is in my books, but it's not quite as confessional as it used to be. But the girl she is the girl. She is herself. She came all of a piece, really. I do remember that I named her in a cab in Japan. I remember sitting in the back of the cab and thinking as the streets were going by and picking that name in this little Japanese black cab. Lost Lonely Girls, Club Forever. Are there any other questions? Well, if not, we'll do our outro housekeeping, our keeping house. This has not been an audiobook for legal purposes. This has been a play and scene. You can find the archive on my YouTube channel at Cat Valenti Live. You can subscribe to my Patreon at Cat Valenti. Follow me on Twitter at Cat Valenti. You can put a coin in the tip jar here on my Instagram profile or on my website at catherinevalenti.com if you want to. These are entirely free, but it is a tough time for our family, and it is quite a bit to put these together every night, a bit of work. So anything that you would like to contribute is deeply appreciated, and I will thank you personally on the next stream. What books am I enjoying reading to Sebastian? I don't enjoy reading any of Sebastian's books right now because I've had to read them all so many times. He's very picky. He'll have like a little set of maybe like 6 or 7 books that he likes, and you know, for a month or two no other book will do. It has to be one of this set, and then he'll move on to a completely new set. So at any given time I'm sick of 6 or 7 children's books at a time. I guess I like the I'm Not a Bear book that we got in Australia. It's a koala doing awesome rhymes about how he's not a bear, and you should never call him a bear. It's very funny. It's by Aaron Blaby. I know it's Blaby. Might not be Aaron, might be Adam. But I enjoy that one. But mostly because Heath does a big, broad Australian accent, and I can't do that, so I try and do an equally silly voice. It's very fun to read. But for the most part, I'm not into what he's into right now. He has learned to say wombat very loosely, but he gets very excited at all of the Jackie French wombat books and goes bombat, bombat, bombat. Bombat is his sort of wombat word. We read to him a lot. I read to him a lot. But, you know, a toddler never tires of a book. It is just, the twist is as exciting on the 67th reading as it was on the first. So, yeah, this is kind of the same ones over and over again. But I guess I like, he has a Baby Bowie book. And a sort of baby history of rock and roll book. Those are pretty cute. And the last page of the Baby Bowie book says "Let's Dance," and it's all the versions of David Bowie throughout his career kind of dancing together but they're cartoon kid drawings. And every time he gets to that page, he does his baby dances. So that's a good bit. I enjoy that. I look forward to the next set of 6 or 7 books that we'll be obsessed over for a month. It's not like that's not, you know, how I went through most of my childhood, I suppose, reading books I loved over and over again. But yeah, I'm very ready to put Dear Zoo on a shelf or launch it out of a cannon. I don't mean to be negative about my kids' books. It's just reading over and over and over again. And you can tell my voice is starting to get shredded from either reading to my son during the day or doing whatever other talking I'm supposed to be doing, having meetings and reading this at night. My voice is starting to get a little raw. But we will persevere. It's my little contribution to keeping the human spirit going, as tiny as that contribution might be. So I will see you all tomorrow. Same fairy tale time, same fairy tale channel, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, here on Instagram. And we will find out what's up with the beast chick. Love you all. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys on the internet. Bye-bye, and see you tomorrow night.